Good morning. My name is Andrew Cardozo. I'm a senator from Ontario. Today, I'm hosting a press conference to discuss a report on anti-Semitism on campus, a deeply troublesome problem which is on the rise. Ce rapport a été commandé par Patrimoine canadien et fait par l'Association d'études canadiennes et l'Institut Metropolis. Je cède maintenant la parole à Monsieur le professeur Cary Kogan, le coprésident du Réseau des universitaires canadiens engagés et son équipe. Mais je vais commencer par, je souhaite un grand bienvenue à mon ancien collègue, M. Marc Gold, l'honorable Marc Gold, toujours le sénateur Marc Gold. Et professeur Kogan, la parole est à vous.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour et bienvenue. Good morning and welcome. We pay respect to all Indigenous people in this region from all nations across Canada who call Ottawa home. Nous reconnaissons leur lien ancestral et durable avec ce territoire qui demeure non cédé. Nous reconnaissons les personnes dépositaires du savoir traditionnel et rendons hommage à leurs leaders courageux du passé, du présent et de l'avenir. We thank the nations for their generosity in providing safe haven for those of our Jewish ancestors who managed to reach Canada's shores, often fleeing hatred and death elsewhere in the millennia after they were forced out of their own native Indigenous land. My name is Cary Kogan. I'm a professor of clinical psychology at the University of Ottawa and the co-president of the Network of Engaged Canadian Academics, NECA, le Réseau des académiques canadiens engagés. NECA is a non-partisan organization of over 400 faculty members on 54 campuses promoting academic freedom, research excellence, and intellectual pluralism to counter anti-Semitism. NECA is delighted to partner with Canadian Heritage to announce the release of this first of two urgently needed reports on campus anti-Semitism and student experiences. Les résultats du rapport fondé sur une importante enquête menée auprès de 900 étudiants juifs dressent un portrait troublant de l'enseignement supérieur aujourd'hui. The study reveals a campus climate where Jewish students are being discriminated against, dehumanized, and excluded. Dans son discours, le Premier ministre a explicitement déclaré que le pacte civique du Canada ne répond plus aux besoins des Canadiens juifs et a notamment souligné le ciblage des étudiants juifs sur les campus postsecondaires. The study helps fulfill the mandate of the Advisory Council on Rights, Equality, and Inclusion, led by Minister Miller, by providing concrete evidence to inform their work, including assessing the nature, scope, and drivers of anti-Semitism in Canada. The data also address the recommendations of the Senate report, Standing United Against Anti-Semitism, Protecting Communities, and Strengthening Democracy, which specifically calls for improved research on anti-Semitism and hate, including in education. Today, we'll hear a message delivered on behalf of Minister Miller by former Senator Marc Gold, or always Senator Marc Gold, as well as comments from the lead author of this landmark report, President and CEO of the Association for Canadian Studies, Jack Jedwab. We'll then hear from former President of UBC, Martha Piper. We'll then hear from, finally, and most importantly, we'll hear from current and former students who will share their first-hand experiences of anti-Semitism on campus. Finally, we welcome your questions. Mr. Jedwab.
Marc was going first.
Oh, Marc, sorry, I'm sorry. Yes, took Marc.
Thank you, Cary. Thank you all for joining us. I'm pleased to read this statement on behalf of Minister Miller, who was not able to join us today. These are his words. I want to thank the Association for Canadian Studies for undertaking this important work with care, rigor, and sensitivity. This report gives voice to the experiences of Jewish students at Canadian post-secondary institutions and helps us better understand the reality they face at a defining moment in their lives. Its findings are alarming and echo what we are seeing across Canada. Statistics Canada most recent data shows that 71% of all police-reported religion-motivated hate crimes targeted Jewish Canadians. But behind every statistic is a person, a student, a family, a community. Cette enquête apporte un éclairage important sur la prévalence de l'antisémitisme sur nos campus et sur ce qui vivent les étudiantes et les étudiants juifs. Nous ne pouvons pas laisser l'antisémitisme et la haine s'enraciner dans nos écoles, nos espaces de travail, nos lieux de culte et nos communautés. C'est pourquoi le nouveau Conseil consultatif sur les droits, l'égalité et l'inclusion du Canada a pour principale priorité de lutter contre l'antisémitisme et de renforcer la réponse du Canada face à la haine. Le Conseil va aider à améliorer la coordination au sein du gouvernement fédéral, à approfondir la recherche et à faire progresser la collecte de données fiables sur les incidents motivés par la haine. Les efforts du gouvernement pour lutter contre la haine et le racisme s'appuieront ainsi sur les données factuelles et sur les expériences vécues par les groupes touchés. This report, the first of its kind in Canada and one of the largest internationally, will make an important contribution to that work. I would also like to thank the network of engaged Canadian academics for their dedication to strengthening academic freedom, viewpoint diversity, and inclusion on Canadian campuses. Pour plusieurs d'entre nous, l'université est l'endroit où nous découvrirons qui nous sommes. C'est là que nous tissons des amitiés durables, que nous explorons de nouvelles idées et que nous imaginons l'avenir. En tant que société, nous devons faire tout ce qui est en notre pouvoir pour que les prochaines cohortes étudiantes puissent vivre la même expérience. Jewish students and every student in Canada should be able to walk onto campus, express who they are, practice their faith, build their friendships, and pursue their ambitions with equal access and without fear. That is the promise of this country, and it is a promise we all share a responsibility to uphold. Thank you.
So let me begin by saying thank you to Senator Cardozo. Andrew, thank you very much. Also thank the Senator for Life, the Honourable Marc Gold, my colleague Cary, Kogan, and NECA for all the work they do, and the report's co-author who deserves significant credit, Dr. Paul Hawley, the esteemed Paul Hawley, if I may say, and as well as Martha Piper from University of British Columbia. Thank you so much, Martha, for being with us, and thank you as well for being with us and the students. So the Campus Anti-Semitism Student Experiences report draws on responses from 900 Jewish post-secondary students across the country. They answered nearly 40 questions covering issues of campus climate, classroom experiences, threats and violence, online anti-Semitism, institutional responses, mental health, and academic consequences. They also provided several hundred written statements and comments in their own words. The central finding here is very clear. Anti-Semitism on Canadian campuses is neither isolated nor episodic. 95% of the students report experiencing or witnessing at least one form of anti-Semitism in the previous year. It can reasonably be described as systemic, right? At any group that would report 95% incidents either experienced or witnessed is a systemic phenomenon and needs the type of response that goes along with the systemic character of the phenomenon. More significantly, 90% said they encountered anti-Semitism either often or occasionally, again reinforcing what I've just said is a systemic character of this phenomenon. There's no qualifiers for this anti-Semitism. There's no adjectives. There's no pretext for it. All you need to do is read through the report, and you'll discover the hundreds of students who are offering vivid testimonies of what they've encountered. For many Jewish students, anti-Semitism, therefore, has become part of the ordinary campus environment. It affects how they speak, it affects how they study, it affects how they dress, how they identify, and how they participate in university life. More than half of respondents report experiencing or witnessing intimidation or threats directed at Jews. Approximately 1 in 5, representing about 200 of the respondents, report that they often or occasionally experienced or witnessed physical violence directed at Jews. Ces conditions modifient le comportement des étudiants juifs. 7 sur 10 limitent ce qu'ils disent en classe au sujet de leur identité juive. Les 2 tiers limitent ce qu'ils disent en ligne. Plus de la moitié évite de porter ou d'afficher des symboles juifs par crainte pour leur sécurité. Les étudiants sont forcés de se demander s'il est sécuritaire de prendre la parole, ce qu'ils peuvent porter et dans quelle mesure ils peuvent afficher ouvertement leur identité. Les conséquences affectent directement leur éducation et leur bien-être. Nearly 3 in 4 said anti-Semitism had negatively affected their mental health. 4 in 10 reported damage to their academic performance. 1 in 3 considered dropping a course or leaving a program, and 1 in 4 had considered leaving the university altogether. The study also reveals a profound loss of confidence in universities. 7 in 10 respondents said their university does not take anti-Semitism seriously. The same proportion said their campus is not a safe and inclusive environment for Jewish students. Only 1 in 3 reported the incident they described. Among those who didn't report, nearly 2/3 were dissatisfied with how it was handled. Many of those who remained silent believed reporting would accomplish absolutely nothing. Others feared retaliation. Low reporting must therefore not be mistaken for low incidence of anti-Semitism. It reflects a lack of confidence that reporting will lead to meaningful action. The written testimony gives these statistics their significance, and I would urge all of you to read the report. It's very, very important for you to get a good understanding of what the students are telling us. That's the most important aspect of this. Derrière chaque pourcentage se trouve un étudiant qui doit décider s'il portera une étoile de David, s'il prendra la parole en classe, s'il entrera dans un édifice, s'il signalera un incident ou s'il restera à l'université. Il ne s'agit pas uniquement d'un problème qui concerne les Juifs. Il s'agit d'un test visant à déterminer si les établissements postsecondaires canadiens respecteront leur engagement en matière de sécurité, d'inclusion, d'intégrité universitaire, de liberté d'expression et d'égalité de traitement. Il va y avoir une deuxième partie. Ça, c'est la première partie de l'étude. Une deuxième partie va sortir d'ici 90 jours, qui est aussi un large sondage fait auprès de la population étudiante en général. Et ça va aussi informer et renforcer ce qu'on a trouvé aujourd'hui dans ce rapport. Encore, merci à vous tous. Merci infiniment aux étudiants qui ont participé dans l'étude et un grand merci à mes collègues.
As a former university president, I am here today to express a profound sense of urgency and shared responsibility. The survey reveals a shocking presence of campus anti-Semitism throughout this country, along with a troubling institutional failure to respond. The results suggest a university culture that is not welcoming to Jewish students and systemically tries to exclude and vilify them. As well, it implicates professors who are often seen as a source of anti-Semitic incidents. The findings suggest a reluctance on the part of campus leaders to address the issue with the urgency the problem requires, as well as a failure to apply their own policies and standards that are ensured to other groups of students. We do not need any more studies or committees or task forces to confirm the issue or define the underlying causes. The time for decisive action is now. Universities must publicly commit to addressing the ongoing prevalence of anti-Semitism on their campuses. This commitment should include 3 components. First, a public statement to students and faculty at the beginning of the fall term 2026 that anti-Semitism will not be tolerated on campus, just as we do not and will not tolerate misogyny, homophobia, racism, or other forms of hate and exclusion. Second, a commitment to enforce their own policies, such as codes of student conduct, respectful environment policies, DEI standards, in order to protect Jewish students on campus. And third, an agreement to work with the government to identify an accountability framework, including desired outcomes, measurements to determine whether the outcomes have been achieved, and timelines to be met. In closing, having served as a university president for a decade, I am fully aware that presidents face on a daily basis a multitude of problems that need to be addressed. As a result, choices must be made as to which problems will receive their attention. This report today makes it crystal clear. The evidence is irrefutable. No longer can anti-Semitism be ignored or believe that it will go away on its own. Rather, university presidents and boards of governors must make anti-Semitism a priority on their to-do list, a problem to be confronted, dealt with, and eliminated. Our students and our Canadian society deserve nothing less.
What does it feel like to question whether it's safe to tell someone that you're Jewish? To walk across campus and wonder whether wearing a Star of David, a Jewish necklace, or a kippah will change the way that people see you? To hear your parents say, maybe don't wear that today, not because they want you to hide who you are, but because they're worried of you making it home. These questions are that no student should be able to ask themselves here in Canada. My name is Barett-Taller, and I'm a proud Jewish and Dominican graduate of Carleton University. I emphasize the word proud because my Jewish identity is my family, my history, my traditions, and the values who have shaped who I am today. Yet during university, it became something that I felt that I had to hide. When I started university, I thought my biggest challenges would be exams and deadlines. I never imagined that one of the hardest parts would be navigating what it meant to be openly Jewish on campus. After October 7th, I returned to class hoping difficult conversations could happen with care, nuance, and respect. Instead, I sat in a classroom where a professor said that the Jewish people were responsible for what had happened. After class, I spoke with my professor privately. I wasn't asking to shut down conversations. I was asking for fairness, context, and humanity. Only weeks later, a guest speaker who had been convicted in connection with a terrorist attack in Paris was invited into our classroom, and students were encouraged to support a petition of reinstatement. That was a moment that I realized that this wasn't about one uncomfortable class. It was about what happens when Jewish students speak up and still feel unheard. My story is not unique. I have spoken with countless Jewish students who hesitate before wearing a Jewish symbol, attending a Hillel or Chabad event, or simply telling other classmates that they're Jewish. Not because they're ashamed, but because they're afraid. No student should have to calculate whether being honest about who they are will make them a target. Universities should challenge our ideas, not our right to exist. My hope is simple, that no student has to hide a necklace, avoid a conversation, or stay silent about their identity just to make it through their school day. Every student deserves to feel safe, every student deserves to belong, and every student deserves to know that they never have to choose between their education and their identity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexa. We're going to turn to Brandon Liu, who's on Zoom with us. Student.
Hi, my name is Brandon Liu, and I'm a student from the University of British Columbia. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thanks.
Is Rachel online as well?
Yes.
Do you have a prepared statement, Rachel?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Seguin, and I'm a fourth-year student at the University of British Columbia. Thank you for the opportunity to share one personal experience that changed how I viewed my place on campus as a Jewish student. In February 2024, I attended a general meeting of the Social Justice Center, an alma mater student society resource group at UBC, because I wanted to engage in dialogue. I wear a Star of David necklace every day, and during the meeting, it became visible. I wasn't wearing it to make a statement or provoke anyone. It's simply a part of who I am. After the meeting, I respectfully asked the group to cite the sources for the information it shared publicly and acknowledge the October 7th attacks alongside its discussion of the conflict. Instead of addressing my questions, the conversation shifted away from what I had asked. While I was trying to explain why this mattered to me, the co-chair interrupted me and said, "Look, I'm a Muslim. I don't hate you just because you're Jewish." I'd never accused anyone of hating me. I came to the meeting to discuss ideas, but I left feeling that who I was had become more important than what I was saying. Because this incident involved the AMS resource group, I first sought support through UBC. I met with the university's Equity and Inclusion Office because I believed there would be a process to address my concerns. During that meeting, I was told that students are entitled to their own opinions and that whether the comments I experienced constituted discrimination was subjective. I was then referred to the AMS ombudsperson. After months without a response, I finally received an email saying there was time to meet in 20 minutes. So I left my class mid-class to take the meeting. During that meeting, I was told that because my complaint involved an AMS resource group, there was a conflict of interest and the ombudsperson couldn't assist me. I found that especially concerning because the ombudsperson's role is to provide students with an impartial and independent avenue for support. Instead, I was advised that if I wished to pursue the matter further, I could file a complaint with the BC Human Rights Tribunal. As a student, I wasn't looking to begin legal proceedings. I was looking for support, accountability, and a meaningful process within my own university community. Instead, I was left wondering where a Jewish student is supposed to turn when they believe they have experienced discrimination. My experience is only one story, and unfortunately, I know it's not unique. Universities and student societies have a responsibility to ensure that every student can participate in campus life, express their identity openly, and trust that concerns about discrimination will be taken seriously. Jewish students deserve to know that when they come forward with concerns, there's a clear, fair, and trusted process that will hear them. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll take your questions now from the gallery.
What would the government's role be in the accountability framework, if you could flesh that out a bit more for me?
I think any effort to combat anti-Semitism needs accountability, i.e., we need to be able to know the number of cases, what happened to them, how well they were resolved, and whether we're making progress. The government currently has certain regulations around DEI, indigeneity, gender, and that would be the type of, I think, framework that we would be working towards.
Has that idea been brought to Minister Miller, and did you receive a response?
This is my personal idea. I have not spoken to the minister about it.
Other questions? Do you want to say something about that?
Well, I think your best position from that.
Yeah, first of all, we do see that in Ontario that there's Bill 166, which is, a first attempt to actually address this issue and to make sure that there's accountability for incidents on campus that include, if you look at the legislation, it talks about anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia. So there is an attempt to capture that, and it's a good first step, and we're hoping that there are more accountability structures, both from government but also from the universities themselves, to have the ability to address these issues, do a campus climate kind of assessment on a regular basis, and actually use those data to inform a policy. As we've heard here today, though, a lot of policy is not sufficient. Those policies actually have to be enforced.
Yeah, if I might, I'd simply add that I don't think it's simply that the government on its own can, of course, address these issues. There are all kinds of other institutions. There is the Council of Ministers of Education of Canada. I would urge the CMEC to make themselves aware of the documented phenomenon in each of the provinces that we've seen in this report, and take whatever actions necessary, or recommend whatever actions are necessary to address this phenomenon, given that to a very significant degree, the measures that need to be taken are within the purview of the province, obviously with the support and the political will of the federal government. And obviously, for those of you who've heard the Prime Minister's commitment to a covenant, that clearly is something that needs to be upheld. I actually am confident from my conversations with Minister Miller that the political will is there. And we do have Marc Gold here, who's part of the council that also is tasked with addressing some of these issues.
Other questions?
That was a great segue into one of my questions. So I guess to Senator Gold, I guess if he's we're about 2 months in since the Unity Council was sort of developed, and job one from the Prime Minister was to tackle anti-Semitism. So I mean, are you able to give us an update on what work the council's been doing in that time, or?
Well, thank you for the question. The council had its first meeting, which the Prime Minister attended, and it was chaired, of course, by the Minister. We're getting to know each other, and we are providing input into a work plan. And I'm not in a position to give you more of an update, and I think that because I don't speak on behalf of the council, though I'm pleased to be part of it. And we are taking very seriously this very important task. And we'll do our best to assist the government in doing what it should be doing to work with its counterparts in the provinces and territories, and indeed in other Indigenous governments, wherever anti-Semitism is found and needs to be challenged.
And sort of, I think my second question may be similar to get a similar response, but just the U.S. envoy on combating anti-Semitism had some fairly sharp criticisms of the council, suggesting there may be a muted response to issues of anti-Semitism. Here you are speaking on anti-Semitism, so I mean that might answer the question, but just would you like to respond to that?
Look, I think the focus today, if I may, is on the experience of Jewish students and by extension, Jewish members of the university community and what they're experiencing. I think I'll leave it to the minister and the government to comment as they see fit on those remarks. But I think the importance of today is that, as the minister said in the remarks that I read, that the experience of Jewish students are now so well documented and so well expressed, and as Martha Piper said, that it calls for action on the part of the university community and on all of us as Canadians. And I think that's what I think the takeaway from today is, and I think that's our collective work.
If I could just clarify the calls to action here. The report is asking for more data gathering through these 2 Senate recommendations and nothing else. The Network of Concerned Academics has its own 3 things that the former university president here had just listed, and the minister has not committed to any of these. It's a thank you for the report, it's not an endorsement of any of the recommendations. Is that all clear?
So just to be clear, that the recommendations are implicit in the report, so I really recommend you read the report. There are no recommendations per se, and the recommendations come out of the data, and I think the data speak for themselves of how pervasive this issue is, how anti-Semitism has become normalized on campuses. NECA, the Network of Engaged Canadian Academics, has posted on its website a list of 10 recommendations that include the 3 recommendations that Martha Piper mentioned, as well as some additional recommendations on strengthening academic freedom and a variety of other recommendations to university presidents, university and college presidents.
Thank you, and I just wanted to get a broader reflection on the balance, free speech, rigorous debate, upholding, people's rights to participate, Jewish students' rights to participate. It didn't exactly touch on it in the report. It seems like the way you're framing it around code of conduct is kind of the answer here, is stick with the rules that you have right now, because the anecdotes at the end of the report speak to a misalignment there. Could I just get your perspective on how do you...
Well, again, my sense from what the students are saying in terms of the many testimonies they've offered and in terms of their responses to the questions about the sources of anti-Semitism that they're encountering is quite diverse. It's not only coming from other students, it's coming from faculty as well. It's coming from classrooms where these issues are really off the proverbial radar in many ways. That needs to be investigated and action needs to be taken. I know that it's not going to be simple because of the issue of academic freedom and or freedom of expression, but my sense from what the students are saying, and I trust the several hundred of them, near 1,000 that have offered generously their time and insights into this, is that a lot of lines are being crossed. And my view, if I may express myself personally, is that there's a serious and deep introspection that needs to take place amongst the university community about what's going on. I'm not necessarily optimistic that introspection will take place, but I desperately hope it does. And I hope that the people in decision-making places will encourage that reflection to take place, and much sooner rather than later, because the urgency of this is very, very apparent.
I'll just add to that one piece around academic freedom, which what we're observing as NECA across campuses is actually a winnowing of academic freedom. We've heard 70% of Jewish students can't express themselves in class or feel that they can't. Certain viewpoints are enforced within class so that it's contingent on that viewpoint. Professors are essentially teaching people what to think and not how to think. And so that undermines the university project and the academy. And so, in fact, what we're calling for is strengthening of academic freedom and understanding that there are lines that include hateful speech, hate speech on campus are not acceptable in classrooms, identity-based targeting within classroom, which we've heard from students, and you can read the report includes many statements from students that back that up, is unacceptable, particularly from those who are really responsible for ensuring that students have a proper education, understand things completely, are exposed to ideas, even difficult ideas. That's not what's happening.
Could I just comment that I think universities have a track record of implementing this type of regulation for other groups of students. In other words, we know we have dealt with students who have had the same types of hate and discrimination thrown at them, who may be homophobic, maybe of color, maybe indigenous. And we have set programs and set regulations and procedures already in place. I think all we're saying is we should enact those same procedures for students who believe they've been discriminated against because of their Jewish identity.
Oui, est-ce que c'est possible de poser une question en français? Alexandre Ranger, Radio-Canada. Donc, ce que je comprends, c'est que votre appel à l'action, vous l'adressez au gouvernement fédéral. Et je me demandais pourquoi ne pas interpeller davantage les administrations des universités sous question comment ont-ils reçu ce rapport? Est-ce qu'ils vont l'avoir? Quelles sont leurs réactions? Donc, j'aimerais vous entendre là-dessus.
Que je réponds?
Oui, je vais continuer.
Mais tout simplement, le rapport a été diffusé aujourd'hui, donc c'est sûr que NECA, RDAS, va envoyer le rapport avec nos recommandations à chaque université, à chaque président des universités et collèges à travers le Canada. Donc, je ne sais pas si ça répond complètement à votre question, mais ça leur donne l'opportunité de lire le rapport, de comprendre l'envergure de ce problème qui est assez répandu et de comprendre, de prendre le temps de regarder les recommandations et on est quelques semaines du début du semestre, donc on espère qu'ils vont prendre ça au sérieux et nous sommes disponibles pour leur aider à implanter ces recommandations.
Et pourquoi votre message est d'abord et avant tout envers le gouvernement et pourquoi vous interpellez le gouvernement fédéral dans ce dossier particulièrement?
Mais je pense que ça rejoint qu'est-ce que le patrimoine canadien font, c'est de regarder toutes les façons que des groupes identitaires sont ciblés. C'est entièrement dans leur wheelhouse, comme on peut dire en anglais, et je pense que ça leur donne... c'est dans leur mandat, en fait, de comprendre l'envergure d'antisémitisme à travers le Canada.
Mais est-ce que votre objectif ultime, parce que je sais que vous dites que vous allez quantifier, recueillir des données, documenter la situation, mais ultimement, est-ce que vous souhaitez que ça mène à de nouvelles politiques, de nouvelles lois?
Donc le rapport, on espère, oui, que ça va informer des actions, comme Martha Piper a mentionné. On espère qu'il va y avoir des actions concrètes pour cibler ce problème qui est vraiment, je dirais, dangereux et qui continue sans vraiment des conséquences importantes.
Permettez-moi aussi de revenir sur votre question. D'abord, la raison pour laquelle c'est le gouvernement fédéral qui est, si on veut viser, pas nécessairement viser, mais c'est que c'est le gouvernement fédéral qui a commandé le rapport. Et c'est le Premier ministre du Canada qui a pris un engagement pour combattre le phénomène, qui est quand même un phénomène sociétal. Le focus, c'est sur les universitaires, mais c'est un phénomène beaucoup plus large. Comme Cary a mentionné, les ministres d'éducation dans le CIMAC, le Conseil de ministres d'éducation à travers le Canada, vont être informés s'ils déjà n'étaient pas informés du rapport, et il faut espérer qu'ils vont prendre les mesures nécessaires pour adresser ça. Mais c'est avec un ensemble de partenaires et c'est avec le leadership des universités et c'est avec les universitaires aussi qu'il faut vraiment sérieusement tenir ça en compte parce que malheureusement, il y a beaucoup trop d'étudiants dans le rapport qui ont remarqué qu'il y a des lignes qui étaient traversées dans les salles de classe. Alors vraiment, il y a un ensemble des acteurs qui devraient travailler ensemble afin d'adresser ça. L'université commence sous peu. Dans les semaines à venir, c'est le moment de prendre les actions, c'est le moment de travailler ensemble, mais ça ne peut pas être uniquement une de nos institutions ou un groupe de nos leaders. C'est quelque chose dans l'ensemble qu'il faut adresser. Et comme j'ai mentionné, quand 95% des étudiants disent qu'ils ont souvent ou occasionnellement rencontré de l'antisémitisme, c'est systémique par n'importe quel baromètre. Et quand un phénomène est systémique, comme on sait, dans toute expression de racisme, il faut l'adresser. L'antisémitisme n'est pas une opinion politique. C'est une forme de racisme. Toute forme de racisme doit être adressée et permettez-moi d'ajouter que dans les universités, ça devrait être une source vraiment de honte qu'il y a ce phénomène qui persiste.
Est-ce que je peux me permettre une autre question?
Rapidement.
Est-ce que vous avez vu recrudescence? Vous parlez des chiffres, mais est-ce que par rapport aux 20 dernières années, avec ce qui se passe à Gaza, on voit une recrudescence des actes antisémitisme? Et peut-être définir les actes antisémitisme en tant que tel aussi rapidement.
Alors, moi, comme sénateur Avi Gold a dit, je fais pas mal de ces études depuis de nombreuses années et j'ai vu effectivement dans la société dans son ensemble une recrudescence des actes antisémites depuis le 7 octobre. Assez large, non seulement au Canada, mais ailleurs. On voit dans les statistiques qui portent sur les incidents haineux aussi, où il y a une recrudescence, il y a des niveaux records. Cette étude qu'on a faite, j'ai eu l'occasion de regarder pas mal d'autres études qui étaient faites aux États-Unis, en Angleterre, en Australie et ailleurs. Et cette étude est extrêmement détaillée et ça devrait servir à adresser les questions que le premier ministre a soulevées quant aux sources de l'antisémitisme. C'est extrêmement détaillé. Alors, si je fais, au lieu de chronologiquement la comparaison, mais avec d'autres pays, le Canada ne fait pas belle figure dans les comparaisons en termes de ce qu'on constate qui se passe dans les universités. C'est une matière très importante à réflexion. Il faut entreprendre la réflexion plus tôt que plus tard.
C'est d'accord. Pouvez-vous répondre en anglais, s'il vous plaît?
Sure, I can do it. The same question. Yeah, repeat the question, actually, just to...
You were talking about the spur of this coming after October 7th, the attacks there, and what you think is fueling this.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear that since October 7th, we've seen a large, widespread increase in anti-Semitism. It seems almost orchestrated in terms of what we're seeing, and universities look as though they are very much a target for the expansion of anti-Semitism. In this particular report, rather than measuring chronologically, we did look, myself and Dr. Hawley, at various other countries that undertook similar types of studies, and Canada ranks the same or worse than a lot of these other countries in terms of what we're seeing at our universities. Now, I want to be cautious. There are some really extraordinary people at our universities across Canada. But there is also a need for some serious reflection and introspection that needs to be more across whole of society, as they say, when it comes to this phenomenon. So it's not just the Prime Minister, it's not just the Senator for Life, Marc, who's on the council, it's also our various education ministries across Canada. I'm quite confident they'll take note of this and they'll recommend actions sooner rather than later. And also other leaders across society, because when you've got a 95% rate, 95%, not talking about 25, 95, let's say they've either often or occasionally encountered anti-Semitism, that's under any rubric or barometer, systemic. And when you're encountering a documented, well-documented, large survey that demonstrates the systemic character of something, it needs to be addressed head-on, and it needs to be addressed urgently.
Can I just add one little point to that, just in case it's helpful? There are academic studies that have looked at the change of anti-Semitism within a campus climate. So those exist, and those have been conducted in Canada. And I can provide those resources to you. And there is definitely a recrudescence. There's a significant increase in anti-Semitism based on those students' responses.
Yeah, let me quickly add something as well.
Yeah.
There will be a second part, as Cary Kogan indicated. It's a general student survey. It was done by Léger Marketing, actually. It will be out probably in 60 days. We're still sort of working on all the fine points, if you like, and it will reinforce some of what you've heard from the Jewish students. And so I urge you to sort of wait for that to come out as well, and there'll be some interesting and troubling insights. And if I may say personally, I was surprised by how large the phenomenon was. I had an expectation, because I do a fair bit of survey work along with Dr. Hawley in the society more generally, with Canadians in general, and in other countries as well. And despite seeing the rise, as you've rightly acknowledged, in anti-Semitism, I was surprised at what I've seen in this report, and surprised in speaking to the students, the stories I heard from them, where unfortunately too often on these campuses we're seeing lines crossed across the spectrum of whether it's students or others. There are lines that are being crossed that need to be addressed, and there need to be some rules, and rules need to be respected.
Just final point, sorry to add to that, it's just that, it does inspire some other thoughts. So we know, for example, that there are some campuses where incidents have happened, and they're very serious, and we know that, based on the numbers, actual physical intimidation and physical violence has been present as well. And NECA is very much looking forward to the report from TMU, Toronto Metropolitan University. Mary Lou Justice Bonotto has conducted a study, and we look forward to that, because that will also give us some insight into the way in which, as Jack Jedwab is mentioning, the ways in which anti-Semitism is manifesting on campuses.
Oh, wait, no.
I think we're done. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci, c'est ce qui me fait à cette conférence de presse.